All right, our official start time is now. Hey there, Andy from Andy's Auto. This is my GX470. Today we're going to replace the CV. We're going to see how fast it can be done in. I did the CV on my LX and it took roughly a couple of hours max. Most of the time was spent trying to get the old CV out, just refused to come out. Anyways, went out camping this last weekend with the family, took this a little, off-road a little bit, just had to, right? Anyways, lost the CV boot almost completely. It's just like torn all the way around. I don't know if like chunks are missing, but it is clearly failed. I drove 60 miles with this. Anyways, we're gonna replace that. Let's see how fast I can do that. All right, we are out on the maiden voyage, just cruising around the neighborhood here. I wanted to go over what the symptoms were that I had on this car for the bad CV. It never clicked. It never made any sounds that I could hear. But what would happen was the steering wheel would do this thing. It would just jog back and forth like that, uncontrollably. And then every now and again, it would jerk to one side. And if I stayed on the gas, as long as I was accelerating, it was fine. It was when I let off the gas that it would jerk. And even when I was braking, it would sit here and do that. Man, this is nice. All right, I'm gonna voice over this and I'm gonna cut in and out, but obviously the first thing you wanna do is remove the wheel. After you get the wheel off, there's gonna be a dust cover, and that dust cover comes off real easily, which is a flathead screwdriver. Just go in there and kind of twist it. All right, the nut holding the CV shaft in place is 34 millimeter and it has a cotter pin through it. All right, here's a view of it with the nut off. All right, next thing that comes off is the outer tie rod, and this dude is in there with a cotter pin and a nut. That cotter pin was in there good on mine. All right, here's a picture from above, and that cotter pin, dude, that thing was in there good. I hated that. Okay, so this was the worst part of the whole change stuff that I did. Anyways, this outer tie rod, it was I don't know if somebody super glued the damn thing in there. Darn, that is super glued the darn thing in there. Anyways, lots of hammering, some choice words, a little bit of magic, and it finally came out. So you see all that running back and forth that I was doing there? It's because I have this magical thing called a teenager, and the teenager likes to use my tools, and I have had lots of tools go missing recently, and so I could not find the right socket. And man, is that irritating, or is it just me? All right, it's time for a dad joke while you're watching me struggle to get that outer tie rod off. What do you call a pig that does karate? Yeah, a pork chop. Dad joke. Okay, it finally came loose, and thank God, because I was just sweating. Anyways, lower ball joint now. You don't actually have to take the lower ball joint off. There's actually two screws, bolts. They're bolts. Here they are. All right, on mine, the two bolts came right off. Of course, I'm using air, so air impact, and that just, that'll loosen just about anything. But yeah, they came right off, no problem. All right, from here I pulled the hub assembly towards me, pushed the CV back, and it popped right out. Great, easy, perfect. All right, pulling the CV away from its mounting point is pretty tricky. There's a dust cover in there, and it looks like you should get between the CV joint and the dust cover, but actually you need to get behind the dust cover. And I just used a regular old crowbar, and it worked perfectly. All right, there's a little snap ring and at the end of the CV, and if yours did not come with one, you'll need to remove it from the old one and put it on the new one. All right, ready to put this sucker in. I ended up having to use a sledgehammer, and you probably shouldn't use a sledgehammer. Probably just use a dead blow, but you work with what you got. All right, I'm gonna bolt the outer tie rod back on, and then put a new cotter pin in there. That's pretty straightforward. All right, to get the lower control arm to come back up, because, well, the suspension's still attached to it. I didn't unhook any of that. So to get that to come up, I needed to grab the other lift. All right, this makes for kind of a tight operating space, so I got the threads, or I got the bolts threaded in there pretty good, and then removed the jack and just used air to move them the rest of the way up. All right, while I was under here, I noticed that the lower ball joint, the cotter pin that was in there, was shaved off, so I went ahead and put a new one in. All right, now it's time to put the big bolt on the big round thingy that helps slow the car down, and tighten that down, and then put like one of those little pin things through it, and I was done. Time for another dad joke. A naked man broke into a church. The police chased him around and finally caught him by the organ. Damn bugs. All right, that was pretty quick and painless. Let's see here. What did our time end up at? 1 hour and 16 minutes. That's pretty good, I think. Yeah, not much trouble. Went the wrong route a couple of times, but you know, outside of that, pretty good. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about the tools that I used. Flathead screwdriver. It was great for prying things apart, like the cotter pins and such. The dust cover on the hub. I had a 17, a 19, and a 34 millimeter to get all of the bolts that needed to come out. These were wonderful. They're kind of like gator grips or something like that. I don't know. They automatically move the cotter pins. Oh, and then I use those to get the cotter pins out, but I have the a cotter pin kit that I bought at one of the hardware stores here in town. I just keep it around, just like I do the body panel tabs and all the other good stuff there. I got other tools out. I use air, so if you don't have air, then you're probably going to need a pry bar, as well as a really good wrench, a socket. Yeah, you'll need those. But that was pretty easy. Very limited tools. Oh, a hammer. Hammer's nice. I used the sledge to put it into place. Probably shouldn't have done that, but I did. Hey, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.